eliminate HIV. Bring this pandemic to an end. We can eliminate HIV.
Good afternoon, viewing audience and listeners. My name is Dr. Gabriel Howell, Chief Epidemiologist for the parish of St. Elizabeth. The human immunodeficiency syndrome is a virus that attacks the body immune system. If the virus is not treated, it can lead to acquired immunodeficiency syndrome or AIDS. There is no cure for this silent killer. However, with proper medical care, persons with HIV can live longer and healthy lives. This month is recognized as HIV Awareness Month, and so, to kick off the month's activities, we'll be hosting an HIV Awareness Health Fair at the St. Elizabeth Technical High School on December 18, 2020, starting at 10 a.m. We'll be having nurses visiting us from Knox Regional Hospital in Spalding, sharing information on HIV causes and prevention, portal of entry, and modes of transmission. Free HIV tests, literature, and counseling sessions will be also available. The MCs for the day will be ID and Fancy Cat. It promises to be an informative and fun-filled day. Looking forward to see you all.
One day later.
Stacy. Yes, Sam. Me need to talk to you. Come here. No. Jesus mercy, Stacy. Oh gosh. Come no man. We can't show up if we take time to talk.
So what happened now?
You know, some me was calling her one girl that come tell me say she and done a friend.
What kind of friend?
What do you mean what kind of friend?
What kind of
Me
friend?
know say it while you know, but he tell me say stop cause I am the one and the true
He
one.
tell us say stop. We tell you know, Donovan have 4, 5, 6. The amount of woman Donovan have, and you don't know what I do with them and if I use protection. We tell us if he left the
But
boy
Stacy,
long
me
time,
trust
you
him.
know.
You say stop all them. there's
You
something
trust.
there. What you mean?
It's a trust that long time. Not trust nobody.
Oh God. So right I know with the man that do all of them so maybe not know if we catch anything.
You don't know if I catch anything.
No.
We know about AIDS. We know about HIV.
We just know say you must try to have one partner.
So when you're mad with his protection,
It's a mercy, Stacy.
come here, Pam, come here. I'm tell you something. Them are gonna have one health fair tomorrow down at the clinic. As you know, tomorrow is HIV Awareness Day. I'm going to take you to the clinic so they can educate you about this virus. Because clearly you don't know anything about it. Leave Donovan, leave him. He have too much woman. Alright.
It's a mercy.
One day later.
Hello, good morning. I'm Nershan from the Knox Regional Hospital, and today I'll be speaking with you about HIV, the silent pathogen. Let's begin. What is HIV? HIV stands for Human Immunodeficiency Virus. Now, what is a virus? A virus, simply put, is an infectious agent which replicates within the living cells of a host. What type of virus can we say HIV is? HIV is a retrovirus. What this speaks to is the virus's ability to change its single-strand RNA into a double-strand DNA and insert that DNA into ours. The HIV virus can be further classified as a lentivirus, and what that speaks to is the virus's ability to cause a disease that is chronic within the host. Now let's take a look at the types of HIV. There are two types of HIV, HIV type 1 and HIV type 2. HIV type 1 is commonly found in the western regions of the world, while HIV type 2 is commonly found in Central and Western Africa. Now, how does HIV affect the body? What it does is it attacks and destroys your white blood cells, that is your lymphocytes. So these cells are your CD4 T cells as well as your macrophages and your dendritic cells. These cells are extremely important to your immune system as they help the body to produce an immune response which aids in eliminating these pathogens from the body. In the case of HIV, this isn't what happens. We'll take a closer look. What the HIV virus does, after it enters the body, it enters the cell. Once it enters the cell, it will use the cell's machinery to replicate. It will change its RNA to DNA and then insert its DNA into the host DNA. After it does this, it will cause the cell to burst. This is known as lysis. Lysis means cell bursting. So once the cell bursts and the virus is released into the bloodstream, the viruses will go on to infect other healthy white blood cells and then cause them to be destroyed. Stages of the HIV infection. There are 3 stages. We have the acute stage, the latent stage, and then the final stage is where we say that AIDS has developed. AIDS means acquired immune deficiency syndrome. Let's take a look at the first stage, the acute stage. This stage will present itself after about 2 to 6 weeks, and individuals will experience flu-like symptoms, a fever, a rash, sore throat, or swollen glands. After the 6 week has ended, you will then move into the second stage, which is your latent stage. This stage can last anywhere from between 2 to 10 years, and at this stage, you're experiencing no symptoms. Even though you aren't experiencing any symptoms, the HIV virus is still attacking and destroying those very important white blood cells, more specifically the T cell. After the latent stage, you will move into the final stage where you would have developed the acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. At this stage, those T cells have fallen below the minimal level of 200. You are now more susceptible to opportunistic infections, which can lead to your death. At this stage, some symptoms you will exhibit are swollen lymph nodes in your neck and groin, fever for more than 10 days, night sweats, weight loss, shortness of breath, severe diarrhea, and yeast infections in the mouth, throat, or vagina. We do implore persons to check their HIV status regularly. We have come to the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for your attention.
You cannot tell if someone has HIV by looking at them. In fact, many people who have the HIV virus do not know that they are infected because they do not show any symptoms for many years. This is why it is important that people are tested for HIV. There is no cure, but there are medicines which will help an HIV-positive person live longer.
Good afternoon all. Thanks for coming to our health fair. My name is Nurse McPherson, and I will be offering some helpful ideas and information as it relates to the portal of entry and exit of the HIV virus. Now, the portals of entry or exit is the avenue through which a pathogen enters or exits the human body or host. The HIV infection requires direct contact with infected body fluid, example blood or semen. The first portal of entry is the mucosal transmission. This is the major route for sexually transmitted diseases, such as HIV in homosexual and heterosexual intercourse. Infectious virus diffuses in the mucosal secretions along the mucosal epithelial cells of the genitourinary tract, which is the anus or the vagina. Studies conducted also suggested the foreskin of the penis was also considered a portal of entry. Second, you have the penetration through the skin. This is where the HIV pathogen is transported through the blood via cuts or punctures or damaged tissues caused by contaminated instruments which penetrate the skin. Example, infected blood transfusion, sharing needles or syringes with contaminant. Then you have vertical transmission. This is where the blood of the mother is transported through the placenta and infects the fetus. There is also the oral entry route where the virus enters the body through oral sex. The virus is also transmitted by breastfeeding to nursing infants via the oral cavity. The portal of exit for the HIV virus is the same as the portal of entry. And so, reminder, the HIV virus, it gains entrance and also exits the human body by various portals. And so it is important that protective measures be taken to eliminate the risk of infection and transmission. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. My name is Nurse Edwards. Welcome once again to our health fair. Today I'll be looking at modes of transmission for the silent pathogen HIV. What is modes of transmission, you may ask? It is the route or method of transfer by which the infectious microorganism moves from one place to another to reach the new host. Modes of transmission can be categorized into three groups. 1. Contact transmission. 2. Transmission by vehicles. 3. Transmission by vectors. Contact transmission can be further subdivided into direct contact, indirect contact, and droplets. Direct contact requires contact with the body, and it can further be divided into horizontal or vertical transmission. Horizontal transmission is through sexual contact, kissing, and touching sores. Vertical transmission is through breast milk, across the placenta, and parent to offspring in egg or sperm. Now, you can only contract this virus by coming into contact with certain body fluids, and these body fluids are blood, semen, rectal fluids, vaginal fluids, and breast milk. Now, we should always bear in mind that if a person is HIV positive and you hug that person, shake that person's hand, or even share utensils with that person, you cannot contract the virus. You have to come into direct contact with certain fluids from the body. Thank you for listening.
If we all educate ourselves, we can help to stop the spread of HIV. I'd love to live in a world where HIV was history.
Hey guys, my name is Nurse Simpson, and today I'll be discussing with you guys some simple tips or some simple tricks on how you can protect yourself from contracting HIV. So first up, we have partner testing. So it is always advised that persons get partner testing prior to sexual intercourse. Then you have contraception, essentially a condom. Proper needle use and medication. Condoms are the most effective. Actually, it is the only contraception that protects us from contracting HIV. So condoms create a physical barrier between persons having intercourse. So condoms literally is a necessity. So be safe, people. Next up, we have needles. So needles should always be responsibly used. Needles should not, I repeat, needles should not at no time be shared or reused. But in the case that needles are shared or reused, needles should be sterilized. Next up, we have medication. So there are two medications that reduces a person's likelihood of contracting HIV. So we have PrEP, which is pre-exposure prophylaxis, and then PEP, which is post-exposure prophylaxis. So what is PrEP? PrEP is an antiretroviral tablet that is ingested daily by HIV negative persons. Persons who take PrEP are persons whose lifestyle put them at higher risk of contracting HIV. So these persons include mixed status persons. So one partner is positive, one partner is negative, right? We have sex workers, homosexual as well as heterosexual individuals, and persons who share needles. Next up, we have PEP. PEP also is an antiretroviral tablet, but it is ingested within 3 days of suspected exposure to the HIV virus. So for example, an example where PEP would be administered would be a situation where a nurse is pricked by a used needle. So instantly she would start taking PEP. Other precautions that limit the spread of HIV would be a person who's HIV positive takes antiretroviral medication that reduces their viral load. This in return reduces the likelihood of them transmitting the virus.
Did you know HIV/AIDS remains one of the world's most significant public health challenges, particularly in low and middle income countries? Are you aware of your status? Did you know an estimated 21.7 million people were receiving HIV treatment in 2017? Both men and women can transmit HIV to each other.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bria Nicole Anderson, and I'll be presenting on the role of the nurse. The role of the nurse, you can say is pretty awesome. You learn new things every day, and it is just as important as being a doctor or a lawyer. Do you know what the silent killer is? If not, let me tell you. It's famously known as HIV. Specialist nurses that deals with this disease has to teach healthy behaviors for living with the virus, monitor their care long term as well as their response to the HIV medication, give counseling and support to each patient. Newly diagnosed HIV patients are educated on the disease process and treatment options.
Thank you so much for coming out to our health fair. I really do hope you learned a lot. Thanks again.
HIV, boost our health and immunity. We're gonna live in it.